The Parsha Seika, but we have a few points we have to finish in Parsha's Vaeschanan first. So let's do that. Number one, we got to Perek Daled Pasuk Tes. Perek Daled Pasuk Tes, which is on page page 960. So there on page 960, we're talking about not forgetting the Torah, not forgetting what people have seen, and not forgetting Torah. There is we're talking about how the mind contains certain things. The mind has only a certain amount that it contains. I think I've told you that Sherlock Holmes, if you haven't read it, which I assume you haven't, because I assume you haven't read anything in about 20 years, but you've seen a lot of pictures. But Sherlock Holmes, when he first meets Watson, so Watson starts talking to find out what his background is, and he says something about Copernicus' theorem, that the Earth goes around the sun, or I think the sun or Earth goes. I think that's whatever it is that they. So first he mentions it, and Sherlock Holmes, he says Copernicus' theory. He goes, "What is that?" He says, "You've never heard of that?" He goes, "No, what is that?" He goes, "That's the theory that the Earth goes around the sun, as opposed to the sun going around the Earth." So he goes, "Oh, that's what it is? Well, good. Now that I've heard it, I'll do my best to forget it." So Watson says to him, "Forget it? Why would you want to forget it?" He goes, "What the deuce difference does it?" That's an English expression. What the deuce difference does it make to me if the Earth goes around the sun or the sun goes around the Earth? My mind has a limited faculty for retaining information, and as soon as I put in useless information, I'm going to have less space for useful information, which is not. It's an enchanting idea to see it in Sherlock Holmes, because that's a Torah idea. That one word of Torah pushes out one item of nonsense, and one item of nonsense pushes out one item of Torah. And so if whether the sun goes around the Earth, I've also never been concerned with that, because I know that either way, I got to get up at 6:30 in the morning to get the minyan. So if they tell me, "Oh, the sun goes around the Earth, you can sleep till 8." All right, listen, now that's a nafkamina. But until that point, I really couldn't care less. I got much bigger issues, like the bus getting stuck over here a block away from the yeshiva because the Arabs are we're doing the street, and I stayed on the bus for 10 minutes. That means a lot more to me than the Earth going around the sun or the sun going around the Earth. I'll take their word for it. Whatever it is, I'll it's okay. If that's what it is, that's fine. So the Torah here is telling us that don't let. Now, what's interesting is to remember is Zachar, Zayin Chaf Reish, Zocher, Zachar, which is also male, by the way, which is numerical value of 227. Shachach, which is to forget, is 328. Shin Chav Ches is 328. The difference between 227 and 328, Azriel hit it. Difference between 227 and 328, how much?
227
and 328, yeah.
111.
Close? 101. Right? Don't go into physics. 101, we can't afford mistakes like that. 101. That the difference is 101. And it's interesting because the Gemara says, how many times is this person supposed to review their learning? 101 times minimum, and then you won't forget. So if you add that 101 to remember to Zachar, which is 227, you get 328, so it'll stop you from forgetting. And therefore the Gemara says you can't compare somebody who's reviewed his learning 100 times to somebody who's reviewed it 101 times. Because the 101th time, it's not that the difference qualitatively. It shows a difference in attitude. If a person reviews his learning 100 times, I'm done. I did it 100 times. If a guy does 101 times, that means I'm on my way to the second 100. And my attitude is that I got to constantly review Torah without end, because Torah is easily forgotten. The Gemara says it's as difficult to acquire as gold. Torah is as difficult to acquire as gold, and it's as easy to lose as glass. Glass, you have glass items and grandchildren, so it's difficult to keep glass. Right? It's difficult to keep anything. You'd be happy your front door is still working by the time they finish with their Shabbos. So they're in and out slamming it. Guys, can you not slam the door? Okay, Zadie, crunch, and the whole house shakes. So the Torah is as difficult to acquire as gold. Gold is a difficult thing until we really understand what it is. And then it's as easy to lose his glass. So a person has to constantly review. That's the idea here. By the way, Zohar is also 227, which is male. This is the numerical value of bracha.
What's the translation of that word?
Zohar, male. Male is 227, which is the numerical value of bracha, which is Beis Reish Chaf Hei, which is blessing. Nekeva, which is female, is 157. 157. The word Nekeva is related to what Bilam said, Ma'ekov lo kabo kel. It's the same root. And how can I curse if Hashem hasn't cursed? So Nekeva is from the root of the word curse. And Zohar is from the root of the word bless. Now, that needs to be understood before any females get all upset, even though that's my intent. The idea is when Lavan said to Yaakov, set a price, what did he say? He said, Nakva scharcha olai ve'etena. Yaakov was working open-ended for Lavan. And Lavan said to Yaakov, Nakva scharcha olai ve'etena. Let's set a price over here. So the word nakva, to set the price, is the same as nekeva, which is female, which is the same root as curse. What does that mean? So the answer is obviously there is nothing in the Torah that is, what's it called, condescending to females. And there's nothing in the Torah that's negative. For everything that's interpreted as a negative statement, I'll give you 3 positive ones. It says that the righteous women married with, it was the merit of our getting out of Mitzrayim because of the righteous women, and the women have more of a sense of conscience, and women have a greater intuition. So there are plenty. What it is telling you in nature. It's nature. A male nature, what's bracha? Bracha is expansion. Bracha is, we talk about, a bracha is related to the word brecha, which is an overflowing spring. Same thing, expansion. When you say that you've had a good year, people say, how's your business going? Well, we've been blessed this year. If you've been blessed, that means there's been expansion. There's a lot of money. Nakva, nekeva means limitation. And in a male-female relationship, often the male is out there. He's all over the place. And it's the wife, the female, who puts the limitation on him. Otherwise, he'd end up in prison. And she puts the limitation on him. And so the men always have these grand ideas. You know, a man who's worked a job consistently means he's been at the same job for about 2.5 weeks. Then he's ready for a switch. Because he's all over the place. He's got these grand plans. And a female is a nurturer. Let's take, you know, she has a baby inside for 9 months. No man could handle that. Man would work 20 minutes and to finish. Come on, kid, when you're ready, come out. That's how it would work. And that's one of the inherent differences between men and women. That's why they need to be working together. The husband, if left to his devices, he's a bracha. But too much bracha, uncontrolled bracha, you're all over the place. Whereas the nekeva is limitation. Hey, let's think about this. Let's put a limit. Let's not be risky. Let's be conservative. Let's be more careful with it. And therefore, you need the two of them working together. Yeah.
What's like the end result if you're like just completely out of control with the bracha?
If you're out of control with the bracha, the result is either a long jail term or the electric chair. That's the result, which is not great for those who've done it. I mean, it's a new experience, that's for sure. But it's not something that you want. It's something you want to avoid. You know, people say, "What's so bad about flipping a light switch on Shabbos?" All I did was hit a light switch. Would you say that about a guy who is in the electric chair and somebody flips the switch? All he did was flip a switch. And right after the governor pardoned him, he was strapped in. The governor pardoned him. And they're ready to get him out of there. And then the guy says, oops, oh, I forgot. Oh, oops. He just came out of the bathroom. Oops. All right, it was just an accident. Yeah, this guy's toast and you're an accident. Right? So sometimes people say, so what's the big deal? Shabbos, you hit a light switch. Okay, so the spiritual effects are also powerful like physical effects. Okay, number one. Number two, take a look at I'm just moving ahead. I want to finish Vaeschanan. Go to Pasuk Chaf Tes, which is on the top of page 964. Top page 964. Va'avadetem sham Elokim. 5 lines from the top. Va'avadetem sham Elohim Maseh Yadei Adam. You worship gods made by human beings. Eitz va'even. Asher lo yira'un v'lo yishvun v'lo yuchun v'lo yirchun. You're going to worship these gods that can't see, hear, smell, or eat. Uvikashtem mishames. This is when the Jews are in exile because they misbehaved. So they go out in exile. So what's going to happen when you're in these lands with these foreign gods? Uvikashtem misham es Hashem elokecho matzasa. You will search for God, and you will find Him. Ki sidrushenu b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha. When you search Him with all of your heart and all of your soul. And then the next pasuk says, Batsar lecha, when you're in trouble, when you're suffering, umitzaucha kol advarim ha'ela, and these curses, these calamities find you, be'acharis hayamim, v'shavta ad Hashem elokecha v'shemata b'kolo. Then you will return to God and you will obey Him. So the Torah talks here about two types of forms of tshuva. Talk about the Jewish people who misbehaved, sent into exile, they're by the nations. And then the Torah describes over here, the Torah, take a chumash. You want to see a couple of diukim inside, page 964. The Torah describes two types of tshuva. In pasuk chavtes, the tshuva is that you will search for God and you will find Him and you will serve Him with all your heart and all your soul. In pasuk lamed, the tshuva is that when the suffering comes, then a person will start doing tshuva. That means there are two types of, call it motivations. There are really two types of tshuvas that people do. There's one type of tshuva where a person does tshuva b'chol. Listen, one day I wake up and I say, listen, I'm just not being good. I really got to get my act together. This is just not right. I had a guy here who was he was an FFB years ago. He was an FFB, and he went off the rails. And one night he was in a bar and doing bar things, and bar none, and he was in his bar, and at a certain point at the time he was about 18, 19. At a certain point, he'd been off since he was about 14. At a certain point he said, "What am I doing? This is ridiculous." He went home, he put on tefillin the next day for the first time in years. He made a fast day for himself. He fasted. He decided to fast. He fasted an entire day. Eventually ended up at Ohr Somayach. And eventually he became involved in Jewish outreach. Yeah, it was an amazing guy. The guy told me a story. He actually was sitting in this bar doing, and all of a sudden one day it just hit him. And there was no suffering. He had plenty of whatever it was, the bar stuff. And he just decided, he just turned around one day and he decided that's one type of tshuva. That's one type of tshuva. There's another type of tshuva. The classic example is the Gemara that says Elazar ben Durdaya, the famous story of Elazar ben Durdaya, who got involved with an inappropriate woman. And at a certain point, he backed off and he put his head between his knees and he started crying in tshuva. And eventually his neshama left him. He cried his neshama out, which means sincere. I mean, that's pretty sincere tshuva. I mean, that's pretty heavy tshuva. He cried and he died. He cried and he died. I'm going to say, shop till you drop. You ever hear that expression? Yeah, well, women use that expression when they go, "What are you doing on vacation?" We're going to shop till we drop. Till your husband drops because he finds out how much you're spending. But you shop till you drop. He cried till he died. And Elazar, in a heavenly voice, came out and said, Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya has immediate entrance into paradise, into Olam Haba. That's a high form, the highest form of tshuva. The highest form of tshuva is a person turns around and he does tshuva, realizes, I'm not doing the right thing, I'm not behaving properly. The next form of tshuva is the second pasuk. By the way, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, when he heard the heavenly voice, Rabbi, who compiled the Mishnah, he heard the heavenly voice that announced that Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya it goes immediately in, Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. I mean, this is a guy who was as immoral as anybody you've met on a college campus. And he went around, and all of a sudden he's doing tshuva. And he died in tshuva, and he gets Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi said it's not enough that yesh kona olamo b'shah achas, a person could become, in one moment, a person could acquire his eternity, and it's not enough for Baalei Tshuva that they acquire their eternity, they even get smicha. He's called Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. This guy was not a rabbi. Maybe a Reform rabbi, but it wasn't one of our. There's a Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya has an immediate portion in the world to come. So the story with the three guys are bragging. One guy goes, "Oh, my rabbi is unbelievable. My rabbi is unbelievable. My rabbi was once walking, and there was a puddle. It was Shabbos. My rabbi was once walking. There was a puddle, and he was walking, and this big puddle. And my rabbi is a miracle worker, and he went puddle ahin, puddle aher. The puddle split, and he walked right through. Second guy goes, "That's nothing. My rabbi was once walking and came across a stone wall. And he said, wall ahin, wall aher, the wall split and he walked through it." The guy goes, says, "That's nothing. My rabbi's a Reform rabbi. And he was once walking on Shabbos and he saw a $100 bill on the ground. And he said, Shabbos ahin, Shabbos aher, and he bent down and he picked it up." So the what do you call it? Rebbe Elazar ben Dordaya got smicha. Elazar ben Dordaya got smicha. Okay, the second type is this type when a person's suffering. Batzar l'cho mitzucha, a person's suffering and they do tshuva out of this in a state of suffering. Now, why is that considered a lower level of tshuva? Why is tshuva when a person is suffering, either his health or his finances or his some other hassle in life? Why is that considered hard? His what he calls his house got burgled, or his what he calls his lousy neighbors moved in. Why is that considered it's always acceptable, tshuva is always good. Why is that a lower level of tshuva? Why is that a lower level?
We weren't in touch.
What?
We weren't in touch. In touch.
You weren't in touch with your, okay, that's part of it. Part of it. The answer is, what else are you going to do? A guy who's laid out with some sort of a terrible illness. At that point, like, please Hashem, okay, I'll be good. Sure, because you got a gun to your head. Okay, that's also good. That's also good. But a person doesn't want to get to that point. A person wants to do tshuva before. A person wants to do tshuva, let's call it intellectual tshuva. I just realized that this is not what I should be doing. I should be doing something a little bit better, and therefore a person tries to do tshuva. Okay. Now I want to show you the ultimate. I don't know if you've ever looked at the proofs of Torah. The proofs. They have all sorts of proofs of Torah. There is only one proof of Torah. There's only one real proof of Torah. Does anybody know what that is?
Proof of Torah?
What's that? One proof of Torah. There's only one proof of Torah.
Torah itself?
The Torah itself is an additional proof. But what is the main proof of Torah?
Jewish people, Eretz Israel?
You're getting close. Yeah, it's very, very religious of you. Yeah. What else? What else?
Maybe it's that safety net itself. When you hit rock bottom, that you can always come up and do the tshuva.
That's certainly a benefit. It's certainly a benefit. Tshuva was created before the world was created, the Gemara says. Tshuva was one of the things created before the world. The world can't exist without tshuva. Can you imagine you get one chance, one and done? I mean, we couldn't exist. The proof of Torah is the oral tradition. Moshe kibel Torah misinai. Anything that you believe is because of an oral tradition. If you believe something, its proof is that it's been handed down. Any historical event, if I would ask you, do you believe there was a Revolutionary War? Did the Americans beat the British 200 years ago? Yeah. Why do you believe it? Because that's what you've been taught, because that's what you've been told. No one is alive from that time, and even if somebody was alive, maybe they're lying. So why do we believe it? Because there is enough historical documentation that proves it. And in my mind, that constitutes proof. Whereas if I would ask you, define proof, what constitutes proof? Well, if there's enough evidence in various places, and it all points to one thing, at a certain point in my mind, that constitutes proof. Do you believe there was a Spanish Inquisition? That's even further back. Do you believe that there were crusades? That's even further back. So we don't have films and even videos. I mean, the fact that somebody sees it on a film or on a video or on TV, there are people who question the moon landing. Right? But there's a video of it, there's a film of it, there are people who question the moon landing. At a certain point, there are people who even question whether or not we're having shear now. Even though it's on Torah anytime, it can't get more proof than that, right? I think it could be more proof, doesn't prove anything like Torah anytime. It might even make it into the Jewish magazines. Then for sure we made it. Yeah. So you understand what constitutes proof? Proof is, in my own mind, I'm convinced that this is the way it was. What convinced you? I convinced you by a tradition. In Judaism, you have literally thousands of families today, all doing something that they heard from their families a generation ago, and they heard it from their family a generation before that. And not only that, they didn't hear it; they lived it. How old were you when you knew there's something called tefillin? Right? Long before you could read. How old were you when you knew there's something called Havdalah? Even little kids at the Havdalah, my grandson is 2 years old. He's already, doing that with the fire. Would you get your hands away from that? He's doing that with the fire. I have another grandson, I think he's younger. Most people smell the besamah. He tries to eat it. He's very machmer, right? He tries to eat the besamah. Right? And kids play shul. They play shul. Now my boys used to play shul Shabbos morning. One of them takes a big bath towel, he puts on the towel, and he's the chazan, and the other one's the gabbai, and the third guy's the guy who yells at the gabbai, and then it always ends with an ofruf, and they throw candy. And that's how they play shul. How do they know what shul is? Because they've been there, they lived it. How old were you when you knew what to do at a red light in a car? How old were you? How old were you? Huh? Pretty young. You probably have precocious 2-year-old in the back of your father's car, and as your father's driving, you go, red light, stop, green light, go, till you made everybody crazy. As you announced by every light, well, red light, stop, green light, go, yellow light, daddy, go, mommy, stop. Huh? You noticed everything. You're a precocious youngster, so you noticed everything. So the Torah tells you over here, how do you know that? Take a look. Perek Daled, Pasuk Lamed Gimel, toward the bottom of the page. Now watch this, 964. 8 lines from the bottom. Torah says, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, Hashama am kol Elokim midaber bitoch ha'esh. Has any nation heard the voice of God speaking out of a fire? Kasher shamata ata vayechi, as you heard and you lived. O hanisa Elokim lovo lakachas lo goy miger of goy. Has God ever come to take one nation out of another nation? B'masos b'osos b'ofsi b'bochama b'yad chazaka v'zrontu m'regoyim kechol asher asalcha Hashem makechem b'mitzrayim leinecha. Has any ever nation even made this claim? Has any nation ever said it? And we see earlier in the Torah says, has any nation claimed that they had a revelation of their religion? I mean, that's a pretty impressive prediction, considering that even according to the Bible critics, that this was man-written, so it's written 2,000 years ago. That's still a pretty good shot that no nation will make this claim, and in the last 2,000 years, nobody's made any of these claims. It's a pretty good shot. That's what Israel said. The Torah itself is the proof of the Torah. But it's not the proof. It's a support. It's certainly a very impressive support. That's a pretty good shot. No one has ever made this claim. Where did the other religions start? What's his name? Yeshka was, what do you call it? He had his own revelation, and then he passed it on to the people. They never claim a group revelation. There was never a group revelation by the Muslims. Muhammad came out of the desert. The Rambam calls him Hamishugah. When Muhammad came out with a very convincing argument for his followers, it's called a double-edged sword. And if you didn't do what he said, do it his way, they got religious quick. When you're facing a sword, you get, boy, do you get devoted. Boy, do you become devoted. Right? And over here, you got Kleisa, you got 600,000 people, 2.5 million people who together claim we experienced God. So, you believe there was a Revolutionary War? Because George Washington, because he never told a lie? It's like a kid in a class. One of the teachers once asked the kid, Johnny, what made George Washington unique compared to other politicians? And he said, well, he never lied. Or so they tell the story. The story itself might be a lie. You never heard of George Washington? Did you ever George Washington in South Africa? Did he make it there? Yeah. So the famous story, George Washington, he chopped down the cherry tree. And his father said, hey, George, who chopped down the tree? I cannot tell a lie, it was me. And everybody's impressed. Ooh, can't tell a lie. You know what our reaction is? What do you go down chopping trees for? Yeah. You little mazik. What are you doing damaging public property? Can't tell a lie. You're standing there with an axe in your hand, and you and the tree are alone, and the tree is down, and you've got a fresh axe in your hand. Who did it? Oh, my sister. Shkoyach. So what are you chopping down trees for? Then you won't have any problems. So Torah says, hey, look, did anybody ever make this claim? This is the proof is in the Torah itself, but that's not the proof, because it's a mistake that people make. The ultimate proof is a Mesorah. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. How old were you when you found out that when you have guests at the table, you don't crank out a nice loud burp to entertain everybody? How old were you? And, oh, I could just imagine, yeah? And you crank one out, and then there's a crunch, right? A good one. Can I talk to you in the other room, please? Your mother calls you, and next thing you hear, oh, no, oh. And you learned firsthand, as they say, right? So, first, how old were you? Did you read it in a book? You didn't read it in a book. People lived it. People lived Sukkot. People lived Pesach. People lived Tisha B'Av. Everybody knows Tisha B'Av. Yeah, my kids, first thing kids do, and first kids do is put on their Crocs, because that's what the adults are doing. So they've learned it. It was all lived. This has to be absorbed. People ask you, maybe there was a mistake in the tradition. You mean all these families made a mistake every Friday night when they set the table and everybody made Kiddush? They all made a mistake together? You understand? That's the proof of Torah. This is a support for Torah, very strong support for Torah, that the Torah itself says nobody's ever going to make such a claim. It's very impressive. Do you know there's a medrash that says, I will never leave? Those are the words. Is a reference to the God saying, my presence will never leave the western wall. The Shekhinah will never leave the Kaisel, will never leave the western wall. You know when that medrash is written? Medrash is written about 1,500 years ago. That's a pretty impressive, it looks like a pretty old wall. You know, I can knock it down and put up a hotel over there. Oh, who made a prediction like that? That's a pretty good shot, isn't it? You knock down all the other walls of Jerusalem, what happened to the western wall? Why don't you knock that one down? And the Medrash says that my presence, that wall will not be, the Medrash says that Vespasian had a general called Fangar. And each one of his generals was sent to knock down one of the four walls of Jerusalem. And when Fangar went, he couldn't knock down the western wall. So he came back to Vespasian, and Vespasian said to him, why didn't you knock down the wall like I told you to? He said, listen, I left it up on purpose, so that everybody would see how impressive you are, because by leaving this wall up, they'll see what kind of tremendous wall you knocked down. So Vespasian said to him, well, you're right. I appreciate it, but you disobeyed my orders. And therefore, go up on the wall and jump. If you live, you live. If you die, you die. And he jumped, didn't make it. It's a pretty high wall. Why did that happen to him? Why did that happen to this Fangar? This Fangar was a no-goodnik. You know why it happened? Because when you were on Tisha B'Av, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai came out of Yerushalayim. He made it to Vespasian. Remember we learned the Gemara? So this Fangar was one of the guys there, and they started asking Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai questions. And they brought the question up about, if there's a snake wrapped around the barrel, what do you do? If there's a serpent wrapped around the building, what should you do? So Fangar said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we ought to smash the whole thing. Then he had the chutzpah to say to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we'll smash the Beis HaMikdash for your benefit. How do we benefit? Let's listen to his profound logic. He said, if we smash the Beis HaMikdash, then none of the enemies are going to come to attack you anymore. That's good. I'll rob your money. I'll take your wallet. Then you have nothing. You don't have to worry about getting robbed. How's that? I'll do you a favor. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, and it was an implied curse, he said, only you know in your heart whether you mean for our good or for our bad. Meaning we both know that you mean for our bad, and you're trying to be a wise guy. And that's why his curse is what caused, because his response to Vespasian was a logical response. He said, why don't you knock down the wall? It was in your honor, Emperor. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have made him jump. Why did he make him jump? Because of the curse of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Why do I bring this up? For our benefit. Do you know what goes on in Israel right now? The secular in Israel, who want to impose their studies in the religious and the chaters for our benefit, only for the benefit of the religion, want to integrate you into the society because they got it all worked out with drugs and immorality. They got it all worked out, so they'll integrate for our benefit. Every chutzpah. Tell me it's free. Tell me you hate me. could live with that. I've been called worse. Tell me you hate me. Don't tell me you're doing it for my benefit. Did you hate that when your parents said that to you? We're grounding you for 2 weeks for your benefit. Did you love that? It was like pouring salt in the wounds. For your benefit. Right? That was like the rusty knife, twisting with the rusty knife. For our benefit. That's what Fungard did. Okay, one more point here. Look at the next pasuk. In pasuk Lamed Gimel, now watch this, very subtle. In pasuk Lamed Gimel, it says, look at Lamed Gimel, page 964, 8 lines from the bottom, 9 lines from the bottom. Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Hashama am kol elokim midaber mitoch. Did a nation ever hear God's voice speaking from the fire? As you, kasher shamata tavayech, as you heard and you lived. That was what event, gentlemen? What event is that referring to? Har Sinai. Har Sinai. No. This is Moshe talking to the people. And then the next pasuk says, "O hanisa elokim lavo lakachas lo goy mikerev goy." Has God ever taken one nation out from another nation? What event is that talking about? What event is that talking about? Mitzrayim. What's the problem? Obvious problem. What's the problem?
There were many nations that came out of
Oh yeah, name one. Ukrainians came out of Russia, huh? Name one. What nation has been taken out of another nation in mass? Americans. Americans are a melting pot of a bunch of people who ran off to America. There wasn't one nation that got taken out from another nation. Slaves were taken out of Africa by conquerors, but it wasn't that God took one nation out from another nation. To the contrary, here we got taken out from slavery. There they're taken from being slaves. What's the problem here, gentlemen? Come on. Out of order. It's the chronological order is not. What happened first, Mitzrayim or Har Sinai? It's out of order. What happened here? What's the answer?
Har Sinai is bigger.
Oh, excellent. That means the ultimate event, what is the world, creation of the world started with which letter? Beis. Bereshis bar Elokim. What does Har Sinai start with? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. The Medrash says the Aleph came to Hashem and he complained. Why did you skip over me? Creating the world with a Beis. He said, I got something bigger for you. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. What do you call it? Har Sinai is going to start with an Aleph. That tells us that the ultimate purpose of the world, it's all impressive. Creating a world is impressive. Getting us out of Egypt is impressive. But what's the single most important event without which the world would not continue to exist? That's Har Sinai. And that's the first thing on the list. Did anybody ever survive a revelation like that? Anybody ever see it, experience it, and survive it? And besides that, and by the way, was any nation ever taken out of another nation? Did that ever happen? No. So that's what the Torah is emphasizing here. Okay. One last point, then we have to stop. Take a look on the next page. Here the Torah says, you were shown that there's nothing in the heavens and the earth. And on 966, last point, the Torah says 4 lines from the top. V'yadata hayom v'ashevosa elavavecha ki Hashem hu ha'elokim, Hashem is the God, b'shamayim mimal ve'elartz b'tachas ein od. In the heavens above, on the earth below, there is no other. Where do we say that every day, gentlemen? Yadata hayom v'ashevosa Hashem ve'elartz b'tachas ein od. Where do we? No, close. Something else we say 3 times a day. Aleinu, very good. And Aleinu l'shabach at the end of the first paragraph, which is something most people should know. We say, unless you leave davening before Aleinu, but are you wrapping your tefillin during Aleinu? Do you know that it says in Halacha that Aleinu is one of the most important tefillos on Aleinu? It says that the heavenly host, the malachim, gather to hear us saying Aleinu. I tell people, if you're going to, not only that, it's a good discipline, because if you say Aleinu with kavanah, then you'll probably say the rest of davening with kavanah. Aleinu is one of those things. Aleinu l'shabeach, whoa, where did it go? I think it's number 2 on the list. What's the fastest one? I think the fastest one by far. Yeah, one goes pretty quick. Yeah. Well, when I didn't even have time to say it this morning. The guy said Ashrei so fast. I said Lam Tzech. I was walking home. I had to say Lam Tzech. That one I missed altogether. But the one I think the fastest one in history was always Brich Shmei. When they said take out the Torah, Brich Shmei de Maria Brich Shmei goes unbelievable. Yeah, Brich Shmei disappears. So it says, so I saw one of the commentators says like this, gentlemen. You should keep instilling in your heart, Hashem is the God. Bashamayim mima'al. When it comes to heavenly pursuits, look up. Let's see how far more we could go. We're doing good. Let's see if we go. Bashamayim, heavenly pursuits. Mimal, let's see if we could grow. Let's see if we could grasp for more in our life, not to become complacent and self-satisfied with our level. Let's strive for even a higher level. I don't mean weird things, just to continuously grow. Let's see if I could grow a little more. Let's see if I could become a little bit more conscientious in my observance, in my Yiddishkeit. Ve'ala oretz, when it comes to earth pursuits, physical pursuits, material pursuits, mitachas. Now, what does that mean? Al arts, mitachas, below. What that means is that sometimes in life a person feels, I don't, boy, look at my neighbor. He's driving a Lamborghini, or at least a Lexus, and I've got this 7-year-old Yeshiva car. It's got almost all the windows, and and you're always looking. Sometimes we look at others to see, and we feel bad because they're doing a little better us materially. So well, all right. So when it comes to look at mitachas, there are other people who aren't doing as well as you. There are other people. Look at the ones who don't have as much as you. When you were a kid and you want to eat the food, what did your mother say to you? You don't want to finish your rice or your spaghetti. What did your mom say? There's starving kids in Africa. Somewhere in Biafra, somewhere in Africa, somewhere in in who knows where. It's usually starving kids in Africa. I don't know. My mother was never in Africa. I don't know how she knew these kids, but starving kids in Africa. And of course, what did you say as a kid?
So send it over.
Wrap it up and send it over. That was which was, and then what did your father say? Don't get smart, eat your spaghetti. The script is almost the same in all houses. Either that's how it used to go. So but there are starving kids in Africa. I wish I could have. I wish we could eat a little better. Yeah, but you could also be doing a little bit worse. And ultimately, I saw them. One of Mefarshim says, I have to go early. One of Mefarshim says that was how Hashem appeased the moon. Remember we talked about how the stars were created. The moon was made smaller than the sun. It said, whoa. So Hashem created the stars to show the moon that what? Yeah, but their light is smaller than your light. So instead of looking upwards, look down. When it comes to ruchnias, let's focus upwards. When it comes to material we should focus downwards, then we'll be satisfied with what we have. Okay. All right, tomorrow we'll start Akev tomorrow. I have to run, I have to meet.